The wind was colder than usual in Washington, even for early spring. Emma Raines stood alone on the steps of the Capitol, her coat tight against the breeze, watching the last rays of sunlight catch the tip of the Washington Monument. It had been 9 months since the GM collapse, but for her, and for millions, it still felt like yesterday. The day America stopped moving, the day factories went silent, the day families gathered around kitchen tables not to eat, but to figure out how to survive. Yet now something different stirred in the air. Inside the Capitol, a bill was being voted on. Not a typical bailout package, not another tax adjustment, but the most comprehensive labor equity act in U.S. history. A law mandating that any company receiving federal subsidies must meet transparency standards, establish a workers' council, and dedicate a portion of board seats to employee-elected representatives. For the first time in over a century, the American workforce wasn't just labor, it was voice, it was influence. As the vote tally flashed across the chamber screen, 264 to 171, the crowd that had gathered outside erupted. Emma didn't cheer. She just exhaled deeply. The work was far from over. But this was a moment, one she never thought she would live to see. Across the country, the auto industry was unrecognizable. The American Auto Pact had become not just a consortium, but a movement. Their Ohio plant now employed over 12,000 people and had inspired 6 other worker-owned facilities across the Rust Belt. Former GM employees who once feared automation were now leading development in AI-assisted design. Instead of being replaced, they were retrained. Instead of being discarded, they were reimagined. Eleanor Grant had gone silent after her book tour, but then quietly she resurfaced, not in a boardroom, but at a university in Indiana, where she taught ethics in corporate governance. Her lectures were open to the public, streamed weekly, and surprisingly candid. She often repeated a line that made its way onto protest signs and business manuals alike. There are moments in leadership when the cost of silence is greater than the cost of truth. Donald Trump, for his part, no longer used the term economic genius in reference to his tax plan. In a rare moment of vulnerability during an interview with a conservative journalist, he admitted, "I wanted to win. I didn't think about the people who lose." That clip became both ammunition for his opponents and redemption for others. The public's opinion of him remained as divided as ever. But there was something new in that divide. Honesty. He had made a mistake. He had owned it. And while some wouldn't forgive, others respected the shift. Elon Musk surprised everyone when he announced that Tesla would begin licensing some of its battery technology to smaller manufacturers under the Auto Pact initiative. For free. "We don't grow by hoarding," he tweeted. "We grow by elevating." It was the most retweeted message of the year, and it marked a shift in Silicon Valley's tone from dominator to collaborator. The real heroes, however, weren't in suits or boardrooms or political office. They were the workers. People like Maria Cortez, a single mother from Flint who went from laying off her co-workers to leading a new worker council in the revitalized Michigan plant. Or Andre Holloway, once homeless, now head of logistics for a zero-emission trucking line in Tennessee. Stories like theirs flooded social media and reshaped the national narrative. For the first time in decades, blue-collar pride returned, not as nostalgia, but as revolution. High school students in Detroit began studying the shutdown of 2025 in economics class. Documentaries were made. One titled "When the Engine Stopped" won an Emmy. Another, "The People's Turn," was translated into 14 languages. News outlets that once focused on scandals and sensationalism now competed over who could tell the most empowering story of rebirth. It was as if the nation had woken up from a long, cynical sleep. But not everything was utopian. There were lawsuits, backlash. A few automakers tried to flee the country to avoid new labor standards. Some collapsed. Others restructured. Political tensions flared as populist movements on both sides tried to hijack the narrative for their own gain. A few media giants were caught spreading disinformation campaigns funded by shadow lobbying groups, but they failed to stop the tide. People had tasted agency, and that couldn't be undone. By year's end, Congress passed the Clean Transition Initiative, investing $100 billion into clean tech manufacturing with a strict domestic first clause. not just for corporations, but for local communities. Cities could apply for funds directly. For the first time, mayors of small towns became central figures in industrial planning. The face of economic growth was no longer a billionaire. It was a teacher proposing a robotics lab, Maizrania, or a farmer introducing solar tractors. Emma Raines declined the White House Medal of Civic Honor, stating she didn't do it for recognition. But she did accept the offer to give the commencement speech at MIT. Her words that day were replayed endlessly. We were told we didn't have a choice, that systems are too big, too powerful, too entrenched. But when the system collapsed, we built something better, not because we had power, but because we had each other. The audience, mostly engineers and technologists, stood in silent awe. Some cried, some smiled. All understood that the world they were stepping into had been changed by those who had once been overlooked. GM eventually returned, not as a titan, but as a partner. Under new leadership, they joined the pact, rebranded, and opened transparent books to their workers. It was humbling, but it worked. By 2028, they were profitable again and respected. And Trump? He didn't run in 2028. In a final rally, he said, "I built towers, but some towers fall. What matters is what we build next." For the first time, his speech ended not with chants, but with applause, respectful, earned. That winter, Emma received a letter. No return address, just one line. "You didn't pull the trigger, but you made sure the bullet wasn't the end." She framed it on her wall because she knew the truth. Sometimes collapse isn't failure. Sometimes it's the start of everything worth fighting for. In 2025, at the crossroads of power and ambition, a historic confrontation erupts. Elon Musk, the genius behind Tesla, SpaceX, and X, steps into the White House as a clandestine advisor, carrying a vision to reshape the world. But within months, tensions flare with Donald Trump, the president pushing controversial tax policies. The spark ignites in a closed-door meeting when Musk, unrestrained, brands Trump's policies a disaster for humanity. From there, a storm of drama engulfs all. Sharp insults, political scheming, and a decision that shocks the globe. Will Musk bow to the White House's might, or will he walk away, carrying a secret that could upend everything? A 70-minute tale of intensity, where every moment pulls you toward an unpredictable plot twist. The camera sweeps over Washington, D.C., its monuments glowing under a starry sky, before diving into the White House. It's January 2025, and the halls buzz with whispers of power and betrayal. Elon Musk, in a tailored black suit, strides through the West Wing, his face a mix of resolve and unease. The narrator's voice, rich and ominous, sets the tone. Elon Musk, the visionary who conquered the stars, now navigates the treacherous waters of politics. But every step pulls him closer to a breaking point. Inside a wood-paneled conference room, Musk faces Donald Trump, who leans back in his chair, a golden pen spinning in his fingers. Aides fidget, their eyes darting between the two men. Trump's tax policy, a plan to slap steep tariffs on green technology imports while slashing taxes for oil and gas magnates, dominates the discussion. Musk leans forward, his voice sharp and controlled. "Donald, this policy is a mistake. It strangles innovation. My companies, Tesla, Solar City, they're proof green tech works." Trump smirks, his eyes glinting. "Elon, your little electric cars are nice, but America's built on oil. My voters want jobs, not solar panels. You're in my world now." The room goes quiet. An aide shifts uncomfortably. Musk's jaw clenches, his fingers tightening around a pen. The camera zooms in on his hand, a subtle signal of the fury he's holding back. Flashbacks cut in, painting Musk's path to this moment. In mid-2024, Trump's campaign reached out, offering a role as senior advisor. Over a lavish dinner at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's voice boomed with charisma. "Elon, you're the guy who makes things happen. Join me and we'll make America the envy of the world." Musk, skeptical but ambitious, saw an opportunity to push for sustainability in space exploration. Quick cuts show him at Tesla's Gigafactory, cheering SpaceX launches, and finally stepping into the White House, his eyes alight with purpose. "This is our chance," he told his team, "to rewrite the rules." Back in the present, the meeting ends with Trump brushing off Musk's concerns. Focus on your rockets, Elon. Leave the taxes to the big boys. Musk leaves, his footsteps echoing down a marble corridor. Outside, under the glow of a street lamp, he pulls out his phone and posts on X. Tax policies that crush innovation are a betrayal of America's future. We need better. The post spreads like wildfire, racking up millions of views. Online, supporters crown Musk a hero, while Trump's loyalists call him a turncoat. The narrator warns, one post, one spark. The fire is coming. The next few weeks are a pressure cooker. Musk navigates a gauntlet of meetings, each more contentious than the last. In a briefing room, Treasury Secretary Larry Kudlow scoffs at Musk's push for solar tax credits. Elon, this isn't Silicon Valley. We don't bet on windmills. Musk snaps back. You're betting on a dying industry, Larry. The future's electric, whether you like it or not. The aides exchange nervous glances, sensing the rift widening. Outside, the nation fractures. Protesters swarm the National Mall, some waving signs that read, Musk saves the planet, while others shout, Trump 2025. Cable news dissects Musk's every move. A pundit on CNN declares, Musk isn't just challenging Trump, he's taking on the entire Republican establishment. This could end his career. On X, hashtags like Elon for Change and Trading Less Trump, splitting the internet down the middle. At a private dinner in the White House residence, Trump corners Musk. The dining room drips with grandeur, gold-trimmed china, flickering candles, but the air is thick with tension. Trump cuts into a steak, his voice low. Your tweets are making me look bad, Elon. Not smart. Musk, sipping sparkling water, meets his gaze. I didn't sign up to be your cheerleader, Donald. I'm here to fix things. Trump's eyes narrow. Careful, buddy. I gave you this shot. Musk leans in, his voice steady. No, Donald. I earned it. The camera lingers on Trump's tightening grip on his forehead, a hint of the storm ahead. The drama takes a personal turn. Late at night, Musk sits in his stark D.C. apartment, the city's lights twinkling through the window. He video calls his mother. Some corporations resisted the new era. A few attempted to relocate abroad, dodging labor equity rules. Others tried to undercut union standards with AI automation schemes. But the strength of the movement wasn't in its policies, it was in its people. Workers, now emboldened, organized, and educated, fought back not with strikes, but with innovation. By 2030, a new political party had emerged, the Unity Labor Alliance. Not left, not right, but rooted in real-world labor experience. Its first national candidate, Maria Cortez, a former GM assembly worker turned logistics coordinator. Her campaign slogan, "Respect is the foundation," resonated across all demographics. She won a Senate seat in a landslide. As for Emma, she finally retired that same year. Her last public appearance was not at a government summit or awards ceremony, but at a job fair in Cleveland. She sat with young graduates, reviewed resumes, and offered handwritten notes of encouragement. One reporter asked her what she thought her legacy would be. She smiled and said, "If I did it right, I won't have one. The next generation will think this was always normal, and that's the point." She passed away peacefully 10 years later, surrounded by family, former students, in a nation that had learned how to build, not just machines, but meaning. On the 10th anniversary of the GM shutdown, a nationwide moment of silence was held, not to mourn a collapse, but to honor a beginning. At exactly 9:47 a.m., the time when the first factory gate had been chained shut, church bells rang across Detroit. Then, all across the country, engines started again. Trains rolled, assembly lines moved. A hum of progress, purposeful and proud. A bronze statue of Emma Raines was unveiled outside the rebuilt GM campus, depicting her not with a tool or blueprint, but standing beside a young girl holding an open notebook. At its base was carved, "History doesn't just happen, we design it." And so America did, bolt by bolt, choice by choice, together.